Welcome to another episode of the Body and Mind Sports Show. I am your host, The Mind, and with me is my co-host, The Body. Body, welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be back.
And today we're on an all-football episode of the Body and Mind Show. So we'll be talking about all things football, whether it's American football, Canadian football, college football, European football, otherwise known as a beautiful game. It's an all football special.
All football all day.
Boom! So we'll be, as always, reviewing the latest weeks in the NFL. So looking back at Week 10, looking forward to Week 11.
Are we looking forward to Week 11?
Oh, yeah, my goodness.
Wow.
What a schedule. As always, then, we'll have our fight of the night. Today, it's Colin Kaepernick. Is he a force for good or evil? No, that's not the topic. It's something else. But it is about Colin Kaepernick, and will he play again? So stay tuned.
The name seems to ring well with the fight for good and evil. Kaepernick.
We'll also be kicking off our college football talk.
We're going to college.
Going back to college.
Grab the backpack and the pencils and just totally ignore them and grab a football.
Boom. I'm taking my basket weaving course in preparation.
Basket weaving 101, baby.
Next, we jump over the pond and look at some World Cup qualifying matches. Soccer, of course, the other football. And then we'll look at the latest in the CFL Playoffs. And we'll end it, as always, with our epic and suck of the week. The one moment we thought was epic this past week, and the moment we thought sucked. So let's kick things off with the good old NFL Week 10. A whole whackload of games we're going to be talking about. Let's start digging our teeth into these things.
Chomp, chomp, chomp.
Chomp. Game number 1. The mighty, the powerful, the incredible, always awaited for Thursday night football match.
Oh, boy.
Seattle and Arizona. So it looks like Richard Sherman got taken out by Thursday night football.
That's the talk. He was hurt all year, and then he tore his Achilles, I believe?
Yeah, his Achilles.
Yeah. So there's some people, I think himself included, speculating that this is a product of Thursday night football. I don't know if it is or not, but it's hard for me to argue against it. And I know players have been coming out of the woodwork more and more complaining about Thursday night football.
You'd figure that the solution to this whole, any kind of Thursday night football issue would be fairly simple, that whenever you're going to play a Thursday night football match, just
by the week before.
Give them the bye week. Yeah, done. Then whatever. It's like, okay.
That would make sense. I wouldn't have so much of an issue with Thursday night then.
Yeah, everybody's going to get 2 bye weeks.
No, well, they just get the one now, but they used to do 2 back
yeah, they did. Ago. So it's just the one this year.
No, it's been 1 for a few years now. Yeah.
All right, so you're going to get the 1 bye week. So there you go. Give them the bye week, then you do your Thursday night football thing. Or you do your London thing, wherever you're going to play. Mm-hmm. Whenever you're not playing in the US of A and not on a Sunday, you get a bye week. Done.
Now, what do you do if you have a London game? Because every team plays a Thursday game. So what do you do if you have Thursday in London? When's the bye?
You just tough it up, Buttercup. Suck it up. You already got your 1 bye week. What do you need 2 for? So Seattle, Arizona. It's just a case that Arizona's a horrifyingly bad team and they got what they deserve?
Pretty much. Pretty much about it.
Because, this was basically a spanking for the most part.
Oh, man, that one play, Wilson to Baldwin, that was amazing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he kind of ran backwards, then he decided to run backwards some more, and then some defenders came. He decided to spin around. Yeah, I've done that in Madden. It's really cool.
It is.
You hit the circle button, you just keep spinning and spinning and spinning. It's great. Seattle just rolls on to an easy victory.
Yeah, 22-16, the score looked much closer than that. It really was.
Yeah, indeed. Another game where the score was so tight. New Orleans at Buffalo.
Yeah, I thought Buffalo played much better. I thought this game could go either way, and I kind of like Buffalo a bit.
Uh-huh.
Oh, the Bills' defense. I don't know if this is coincidence, but since trading Marcel Darius, they are averaging 246 yards against on the ground per game.
Fantastic.
The Saints scored 47 points and did not have a passing touchdown. I believe it was, 5 or 6 rushing touchdowns? I think it was 6 rushing touchdowns.
Well, everybody got a rushing touchdown. I think at one point, the third stringer got a rushing touchdown. And after that, I think some fan in the stand wearing a Saints jersey got to get a scoring or a rushing touchdown.
Yeah, I had talked to my uncle, but he's a Saints fan. He might have even cashed in on like a 3rd and 1 short yardage situation for them.
Oh, there you go. We should look at the replay.
And I don't even think he's been outside of Winnipeg before Sunday, before heading to Buffalo just to make this short yardage situation.
So this is a complete collapse and disaster by the Bills. I guess, do we see this continuing?
I don't see it ending. They gave up 298 yards rushing at home. That's like getting victimized in a college game, never mind an NFL game.
Yeah. So I think right now we can pretty much say that, the Saints are for real.
Yeah, we could say the Saints are for real, and we talked a couple of weeks ago, maybe the Jets' dream is done. I think Buffalo's dream is done right about now.
The most insane part of it is that the Saints scored 20 points in the third quarter. That's unbelievable. They scored 20 points in one quarter. That quarter alone was more than enough points.
And doing it mainly on the ground, which usually takes time.
Yep.
I guess not when you're ripping up in the gobs they were against Buffalo.
Obviously, the issue was Adrian Peterson. He was disrupting that whole running game.
Oh, yeah.
You had to get rid of him. Got rid of him? Look at that running game go.
The other issue was Tyrod Taylor at quarterback for the Bills because they're benching him this week.
Oh, yes.
For his inability to stop the run at quarterback, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, that'll be talked about. So we had a game that was sort of kind of competitive. Minnesota and Washington.
That game looked a little bit closer than it was. Washington kind of stuck around, but the Vikings looked really impressive. A couple key interceptions by Keenum, but he really proved something to me overall, having a strong road game. That was my thing. I had faith in them at home, but I wasn't sure how they'd be on the road. But I have faith that the Vikings are a legitimate contender right now.
Yeah, everybody's been talking about their defense and how they're like a top 5 defense, but everybody just always had question marks about the offense with Keenan controlling things.
He doesn't get sacked. He usually doesn't throw picks. This weekend was an exception.
Yeah. Yeah, so it looks like the Vikings right now, looks like they got it all. Mm-hmm. Defense, offense, it's all rolling. Next, we're looking at Dallas and Atlanta, reviewing that silly game.
Ooh, man, did Dallas miss Smith at left tackle?
Yeah,
they missed Smith at left tackle. Dak Prescott was, he saw the ground a few times. Sean Lee got hurt that game. That defense gives up an extra 50 yards a game rushing, and they're not as good against the pass without him in there. Right now, losing Ezekiel Elliott is the least of their problems, because those two are much bigger losses than Zeke.
Yeah, you thought he was actually like number 3 on the concern chart.
By a long shot. I got to see just how many sacks Claiborne himself had. I've heard 4. I've heard 6.
It's probably somewhere around 10.
Well, he actually hit a bonus for the year just largely off this past weekend.
In that one game?
Yeah.
It was incredible because Dallas, they even tried 2 different linemen there at left tackle, and it didn't seem to matter. It was no matter who goes in there, they just kept running right past them and just crushing Prescott, introducing Prescott into that fresh new ground at Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
I'm surprised there's just not an imprint of him there like there are in murder scenes.
Like a police outline?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That was just horrid.
We'll have to watch out for their next home game. See
if there's chalk outlines all over the field.
Dak's imprint is still there on the field.
So I got to look up the sack total in general. So gave up 8 sacks.
Ooh.
Belonged to, Claiborne had 6 himself.
No, there you go.
Mainly against the left tackle.
Not bad. Half a dozen sacks in one game. Ow!
It was a solid outing.
Once again, the Atlanta Falcons continue to confuse us thoroughly.
Yes.
Just when we think they're down and out and we're ready to give up and move on from them, they do something like this, and suddenly we have to pay attention to them again. Another team that we have to pay attention to, but because they're actually good, are the Patriots. They beat up on Denver this week.
Oh, man.
For one of the few times in their history, actually going into Mile High Stadium and not just winning, but demolishing the quarterbackless Broncos.
That was just an outright beatdown of epic proportions.
41-16. The Os got the start for the Broncos. What do you think of that?
I don't think it really matters who's starting for them there. That team's just an epic mess.
I guess the question now is the potential third quarterback, Paxton Lynch. Is he going to get in now?
They say there's been health issues, but I'm just thinking he hasn't shown them anything.
Just kind of amazing, given the two that are ahead of him on the depth chart. Just how bad is this guy if he can't beat out Osweiler and Simeon?
That makes me wonder.
Okay.
Kaepernick's still out there, and he'll still be staying out there.
Tough season coming up for Broncos.
I guess the Broncos like what they have in the building.
Speaking of swearing tirades, probably been a few of those in Tampa Bay this year.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
This week, somehow, they managed to Buccaneer-like steal a victory against the New York Jets, 15-10 Buccaneers.
Fitzpatrick does it against his old team.
Fitz putting on the Ritz.
Putting on the Ritz. I left that game alone because there's no Mike Evans. Deshaun Jackson had his first good game as a Buccaneer. He's had trouble connecting with Jameis Winston, but him and Fitzpatrick did it. And they get Evans back this week. I still don't like this team's coaching staff, and I still think they'll grossly underachieve, but we'll talk more about next week's game when we get to next week's games.
Well, they have grossly underachieved with people like Evans, Deshaun Jackson, my favorite Martin.
Yeah. Though Martin doesn't shock me. This has kind of been a pattern with this guy. He had one really good year a few years ago.
Yeah.
Then he spent a couple years injured and underperforming.
All right.
And I think he came up to his contract year and he reemerged. And now he's back to... where everyone else is like, I'm not surprised with Martin.
So he's like fat and happy, enjoying his contract and living la vida loca.
Yeah.
Bugger. I have him in my fantasy pool.
But the rest of it, I mean, you got McCoy and David and Alexander on that defense. And I mean, there'd be holes, but that defense should still be better than it is.
Yeah. Buffalo. Tampa has definitely been a massive disappointment because, like they're 3-6 right now, but everyone would have expected them to be 6-3 at this point. Not this.
No, I don't like their offensive scheme. I don't like their defensive scheme. I don't like Jameis Winston making the same mistakes over and over again. I don't like him trying to eat fictional W's on his hand to eat the win.
Oh man, I know that was the stupidest pregame pump up speech I've ever seen.
Everyone around them looked confused. They didn't even look pumped up.
No, they actually looked more disgusted than anything else. It's like
that's the type of thing. Like, he was a great leader in college, and that looked like the type of thing in college that would probably work out awesomely.
I think that might have worked out
in the NFL. No,
maybe in elementary football.
In the NFL, no.
Maybe in college after a frat house party that would have worked.
Well, that's what I think, because you'd probably have the frat house after the pep rally. And NFL, no.
Yeah, that's an image I can't get in my head. Him sucking his own fingers. Eat the W, eat the W, eat the W.
It was clearly disturbing.
Clearly. Obviously, that game was lost even before it was played, because I think his crazy eating W pregame speech messed his own teammates' minds so badly they couldn't even focus on the game anymore.
I would agree with that.
It's like... remind me a story of Tommy Lasorda going out and people saying what a great motivator he was, and the one time one of his pitchers was struggling and he goes out there to try to motivate him and he tells him, son, think of this like it's going to be your last game. What if you die tomorrow? How do you want to be remembered? Do you want to be remembered for having this magnificent game? Is this going to be your last game? Are you going to be remembered as having the greatest game of your life? Or are you going to be remembered as having the worst game of your life? And he thought he had him pumped up, left the field. The pitcher went out, threw through nothing but beach balls leading to home run after home run. At the end of it, he finally pulled the pitcher and he asked him, "Son, what happened?" It's like after that speech, it's like, why did you pitch so even worse after I talked to you? He said, "Coach, you got me thinking about death so much I couldn't focus on the game." So remember, words matter. In the case of Jameis Winston, sucking matters.
Yes.
Speaking of sucking, we had an epic matchup.
We passed an opportunity. That should have been an epic suck, actually. That would have been so literal.
Oh, it was an epic suck. It's true. Our last game that we're reviewing for Week 10 was an epic suck. It was the Giants, the New York Football Giants, against the San Francisco 49ers.
Can you hear that? That's the sound of me banging my head on the table. They got beat by C.J. Beathard. Yeah, I know they say it's Beathard. You look at the spelling, Beathard.
It's Beathard. I don't know where this
my hopes got beat hard because I had two teams left that were winless in my bet that someone would go 0-16, and now I'm down to the Cleveland Browns as my only hope because someone on the schedule had to put the Giants in San Francisco. Yeah. Ben McAdoo's so atrocious he shouldn't just be fired from the Giants, he should be barred from civilization.
I fully agree. If nothing else, that mustache of his needs to go even before he does. Actually, is that thing taking on a life of its own? Because it seems to be moving during games now.
Yeah, it's probably trying to get away from him like everyone else would.
When I look at him, he just kind of stands there on the sideline. Like, I swear his mustache is like trying to like curl up and go into different positions. Like, I think his mustache is either bored or is trying to hide from like watching his football team play.
I mean, if there's 10 more people like Ben McAdoo in this world, we should throw them all together and pack them in an Austin Mini just like they used to do with clowns at the circus.
Clown cars, love it.
Oh, man.
The amazing thing is there was actually scoring in this game, which I thought maybe this is just going to be like some 3-0 win by, whoever had the ball last, I guess. But instead it was 31-21 for the 49ers. So your boy Beathard, he can move the football.
Against the Giants anyways.
Sounds like they don't need Garoppolo after all.
No, they just need to see the Giants every week.
Oh, yeah, they'd be 16-0.
Yeah, instead of 0-16. Oh,
yeah. This was atrocious. And each week we keep thinking that we've seen the worst that the Giants can do, yet they keep lowering the bar just that much further.
It's like they're trying to take the limbo underground.
I think we're there.
That's how far they've dropped the bar.
I think we are there.
It is like they took the limbo bar, took the plane, went across to Israel, and trying to limbo right to the bottom of the Dead Sea.
Fitting.
And you can't get there because you'll float.
That's true. Well,
but McAdoo would try to lead him to it because he would think it could work. Because he's an idiot.
Well, a dead body does float, so this is appropriate for a team like the Giants.
Yeah.
We can pretty much say that, yeah, their season is dead this year.
Oh, yeah.
But they've given their coach the vote of confidence. He's staying around for the rest of the year.
Yes.
Watch for Black Monday, friends.
Oh, can't wait.
It should be a fun day.
Going to be a lot of victims this year.
Yeah, we're going to be talking in a future show who we think are going to be the most likely victims to get Black Monday'd. So stay tuned for that. So that is our NFL Week 10 review. Next, how about the NFL Week 11 preview? We've lovingly hand-picked a number of games that we want to review. Handcrafted these picks for you.
Excuse me.
So why don't we start always with our favorite, always look forward to Thursday night football game. And this week we have the Tennessee Titans and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
We actually have two reasonable teams here. I kind of like Pittsburgh because Tennessee being that physical. Well, they're both physical, though. I don't know what to make of this game, though, because the Steelers play up to their opposition, and Tennessee's won 4 in a row, but they haven't been overly impressive in doing it. So I don't know what to make of the Titans. So since the Steelers play up and down to their opposition, I wonder if they'll be too confused to even show up at the stadium because they don't know which version of themselves should play this team.
It's true. The Titans, they seem to find, well, obviously just kind of like almost a new hero each week, but obviously when you got some solid running, because they got former Cowboy, Latavius there.
Oh, DeMarco.
Or DeMarco Murray, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, with him in the lineup, I mean, that guy can just carry for like a truckload of carries.
And you can run on the Steelers.
Mm-hmm. And, so it's like whether, running, they have some options there. Passing, Mariota seems to do enough each week to kind of get the job done, and then their defense, same thing. They kind of like do enough to get the job done.
Makes it a hard game to gauge.
Yeah, so it's like the Titans. They seem to be one of those teams that they're kind of good at all aspects of the game,
but not great.
Yeah, they're good at passing, good at running, good at defense.
They win ugly, but they win.
They win ugly, but they win. Yeah, I don't ask you how many, or how. It's how many.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I find them a sneaky 6-3 team.
I would agree.
So this should actually be a fun matchup. One game you might want to avert your eyes, just don't look straight at the sun. You probably don't want to look straight at Arizona and Houston.
You had a comment about this game. You said this game offended you or something.
Well, my question here that I'm wondering is, so you've got the Arizona Cardinals who have no quarterback, and even when they did, they had no offense that you could count on. You didn't really have a running game, didn't have a passing game, don't really have a defense. Coach seems confused. Meanwhile, on the other side, you got the Texans that at one point they actually did have a quarterback for a couple of games, and then as soon as he injured himself, now they got nothing again. Their defense, that once was a strength, even now they've kind of like taken the year off.
Injuries, yeah.
So you got the Cardinals that are just offensive. The Texans are offensive. My question is, why isn't this either a Thursday night football game or being played in London?
I mean, the fact this game offends you may be the only real offense in this game.
This game is such a brutally, horrifyingly bad, must-not-see TV matchup that this is the type of game that's usually referred or reserved for London or Thursday night.
It is Blaine Gabbert versus Tom Savage. Oh. A TV executive's nightmare.
Sweet baby Jesus. Houston and Cardinal and Arizona fans don't even watch this game.
No.
Like, the frightening thing is, I'm sure that the Arizona Cardinal fans right now are probably looking more forward to watching the Coyotes play that day than they are the Cardinals.
Well, I believe this game's in Houston, right?
It is in Houston.
I mean, didn't the city of Houston suffer enough with Hurricane Harvey? What'd they do to deserve this game?
Oh, my Lord. At least the one thing you're guaranteed is that these two teams will damage nothing.
Yeah. And definitely not the scoreboard.
Just the scoreboard.
It'll be fine.
It'll be perfectly fine. This scoreboard, they're not going to get a lot of work out.
No.
They could literally go back to old school, putting up like cardboard for the actual scores.
This game isn't a Duracell commercial in waiting.
Nope. There ain't a lot of updates happening here.
No.
Oh, this is this is an abomination. Speaking of abomination, how about Miami?
Shakespeare never even wrote a tragedy like this.
Very good.
Thank you.
Speaking of tragedy, Miami's defense. They get to go. This is a defense that, some companies say they have an open door policy. Well, Miami's defense has the same policy because last week.
fault.
Last week on Monday Night Football, we saw Carolina just run through that open door all day, all night. They scored at will, over 40 points they put up on them. And there wasn't even a challenge. Like, there was the Miami defenders, they couldn't even bother to get in the way even. Like, to at least hopefully trip them or something. So we got Tampa Bay coming into Miami. What do you think? Is Tampa going to continue steamrolling over Miami?
Tampa's an awful team, but I'll take them over Miami. I like Fitzpatrick more than I like Jameis Winston at this point. They get Mike Evans back. Deshaun Jackson's finally involved. Like I said, not a lot of confidence in Tampa Bay, but I'll take Fitzpatrick over Jay Cutler in the Never Was Bowl.
So it's a case of having even less confidence in the Dolphins.
Yes.
Yep. That's always a worthy reason to go against anyone. You don't always have to be the best. You just have to be not the worst.
Fitzpatrick's beard has more character than Jay Cutler.
He does have a good beard.
He does.
The one matchup, though, the next matchup we'll be looking at is one of these classic. One of these things is not like the others. LA Rams and Minnesota Vikings.
Who invited this game to the schedule? This game's like prime compared to the rest of the schedule. This game's like a cheeseburger. And if this would be like throwing a cheeseburger into an outhouse. This game would be the cheeseburger. The rest of the schedule's an outhouse.
But not just any cheeseburger, like a really tasty cheeseburger.
And not just any
toppings.
Outhouse. One that hasn't been sucked out for like 3 years.
That's been built on top of a cesspool.
Yes. Oh, man.
Yeah, this is an amazing matchup in an otherwise abysmal week of NFL 11 games. So it's incredible. This is obviously going to be the game of the week.
Yeah.
So Rams and Vikings, they're both 7-2. Who's going to be 7-3 when this is over?
Could go either way. I kind of like the Vikings. That defense at home, Case Keenum could do enough. I wouldn't write off the Rams here, but my leans towards the Vikings. They're just, that home field advantage is quite amazing for them.
Okay. Yeah, it definitely basically looks like this will be a close matchup because really their strengths are kind of the same. Their offenses are pretty good.
Well, the
Rams are pretty good.
Well, the Rams offense, it's more offense against defense.
Yeah, you figure?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Rams have a pretty good defense, but it's not their strong point. You can move the ball against them.
Yeah.
Vikings defense is amazing, and the Rams offense has been on pace with the greatest show on turf.
Okay.
Rams.
Nice.
So it's the Rams offense against the Vikings defense, but it's not one of those things where it's all offense and defense, because the Rams still do have a pretty good defense, and the Vikings still do have a pretty good offense. Because sometimes you see these battles, and it's heavy on the one side, and on the other side, it's a little questionable.
Excellent. Love it. So there's the one game to look forward to.
Yeah, literally the one game to look forward to.
Why don't we look at some other matchups?
We're saving one for later.
We're saving one for later. So
I
let's go to.
I thought we were going to save Arizona Houston.
Oh no, that nothing can save that. We're going to go to Mexico. New England is going to be fighting Oakland in Mexico. The Raiders, are they raiding Mexico City?
I like New England to cover a 7-point spread here. Even as a Raider fan, this game concerns me big time. New England is stayed in Colorado this week to prepare for the altitude.
Okay.
The Raiders aren't going down there till I think Thursday or Friday because they're used to the altitude because they've played there before. But they played there against another team that wasn't used to the altitude before. New England's going to be fully ready for it. This is where I think it gets ugly. New England and Brady, notorious for ball control and tiring out defenses. And now they're going to be used to altitude, and you're going to altitude and heat in Mexico City against a defense
and smog.
A defense of record-setting proportions, and not in a good way, because no defense in NFL history has gone this deep in the year without an interception until the Raiders this year. And I could see Brady holding the ball all day and the Raiders' defense just dying out. This one to me screams all New England all day.
Now,
Even if the Raiders score points, it's not going to be enough to keep up.
now Lynch should be back for this game, yes?
Yes.
So, Lynch factor?
If I had enough faith in them to actually run him 20 or 25 times, I would say yes. But I don't have faith in them to use them enough.
So that'll be the interesting thing to see in this game, if they actually unleash the beast.
If they unleash the beast, they've got a shot.
Will Mexico City taste the rainbow?
Well, it'd make the smog taste sweeter.
Speaking of sweet, Philadelphia Eagles. They've been a pretty sweet team this year.
They have.
So far, so good. Crushing all before them. Well, nearly all. 8-1. They're definitely, so far, the epitome of when Conan said, what is good in life? They have crushed their enemies. They have seen them flee before them. And they've heard the lamentations of their women.
And now they go to Dallas to do the same.
So the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders are going to be screaming by the end of this game.
Hey now.
So you see the issue of Lee Smith and Elliott, that unholy trio being out means Dallas is in trouble.
Yeah, I don't know if Smith's back this week or not. For his sake, they better be. And even if he is, what kind of shape is he in? Because Philly has a tenacious front four. And Sean Lee, I mean, that's huge to that defense. And you're facing this offense now. Yeah, I love the Eagles rolling in this one.
Yeah, I do not disagree. Last week we saw what happens when, when the offensive line is not capable of protecting the quarterback.
Well, that went from their strength to their weakness instantly.
And that was the thing. Despite all of the accolades and everything that everyone gives to Dak Prescott there for his running ability, yeah, Atlanta showed that, great running ability or not, we can still get to you. And if we, flatten you to the ground, your running ability ain't going to do you no good.
Well, here's the value of a left tackle in the NFL. Cincinnati, your Bengals used to have a good offensive line, right? And it went to hell in a handbasket this year because Whitworth, the left tackle, left.
Yeah.
The Rams had a bad offensive line last year. It's become good this year, mainly because Whitworth went to the Rams.
Of course.
Dallas, best offensive line in the league. Lose their left tackle. Falls apart.
Yep.
The importance of a quality left tackle in the NFL, it's amazing.
And that's the thing. And now with the Eagles, after the trade they made at deadline, get Jay Ajayi there. So you had a team that was already, offensively already doing well. But now you've just added some pretty nice depth to the running game.
Well, what they did is they lost their left tackle for the year. The guy replacing him, though, not as good, but he's been reasonable enough. But what they did to compensate is when they got Ajayi to give themselves a stronger running game, that helps protect the quarterback.
So we figure Philadelphia in Dallas, this should be a cakewalk.
It should be, unless the Dallas pass rush gets there. But I have my questions of Lee in there. I like Philadelphia.
All right, so we have saved it for last, and because it's least, and that's Cincinnati and Denver.
Somebody's got to win this game, unless it's the first ever 0-0
they
tie.
Don't have to win.
It could be a 0-0 draw.
I am predicting that this will be the first ever 0-0 tie in the NFL.
It's hard for me to argue this.
0-0 ties are not just for soccer anymore. Let's bring them to football.
Oh, man.
These two teams are a disgrace. I mean, you have the Broncos with a rookie head coach, so he can be forgiven. Meanwhile, on the other side, you have Marvin Lewis, who would give rookie coaches a bad name, actually, with his incompetent coaching.
You know what, though? As bad as Denver's situation is with their talent, no, he can't be forgiven.
He can't be?
No. Not in my opinion.
The offense for the Broncos is non-existent. They have no passing game. They have no running game.
Remember, for the large part, they had the same quarterbacks last year, and they still finished near 500.
True. But this year, it's just fallen apart for the Broncos.
Special teams, too. And special teams, to me, usually scream coaching.
And, well, that's true. That's true, because yes, special teams, for the most part, is is really about effort more than anything else, really.
And execution, a lot of turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing if you have a kicker missing, but they actually have a good kicker. It's like the little things, like the...
Yeah. And you got the Broncos, like their defense just looks like they're just so sick of carrying this team that they've just kind of like thrown in the towel.
Yeah, I think they're physically sick of being on the field, and they're just emotionally sick of carrying them for this long.
Yeah. And on the other side, the Bengals are just a complete and total mess.
The only thing saving the Bengals from being a disgrace to Ohio is the fact that Cleveland's in the same state. Well,
right now they are playing like the Browns.
Yeah, they're not far off.
And actually the Browns outscored them last week. So I could see that happening again this week.
Yeah.
Watch out! Watch for this. The Browns outscoring Cincinnati every week now until the rest of the NFL season.
Well, this week will depend on how motivated Jacksonville is. If Jacksonville, with their youth, takes this game lately, I can see that happening. If Jacksonville's defense shows up the way they do when they're having one of their good weeks, ooh.
Look out.
Cleveland, Cincy may tie at 0.
I am convinced this is going to be a 0-0 tie. And with that is our NFL Week 11 preview. Next, we have, as always, our fight of the night.
The fight of the night?
Indeed. This week it is, oh yeah, ring that bell.
Get somebody out here!
This week we will be talking about Colin Kaepernick. And the question is, will he play again? Body.
No.
Why?
I'd love to see him back. I think you believe he might be back next year. That's what you're stating, right? Because I'm pretty sure we're not seeing him back this year. If he's not in Houston, I mean Savage. I mean, what are you going to go with? Oh, we didn't want to change the offense. You already changed it for Deshaun Watson, so you could run the same thing with Kaepernick. Denver, you're telling me Osweiler's better than him? You're telling me Simeon's better than him? If Paxton Lynch can't beat those two clowns, if teams haven't brought him back yet, I don't see it next year because there's supposed to actually be some quarterbacks in next year's draft. Tyrod Taylor might be a free agent next year. So if he's not anywhere, I still think there'll be openings. If no one's calling him now, I don't see it getting any easier next year. And by the way, the fixing the offense thing, changing the offense, a myth. A couple interesting stats I heard before the season. Kaepernick last year, 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. I know people say, well, he won one game. Yeah, well, played for Chip Kelly in San Francisco, so good luck with that last year. But anyways, he had 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. But here's the other thing. I heard this stat somewhere just before the year started. Oh, he can't throw from the pocket. Of 330 pass attempts last year, 280 of his were from the pocket. So there's no even reasonable excuse for him not to be in the league right now. So I hope I'm wrong, but I think he's out for good.
All right. Well, I think that he will be back. Not this year because, all the owners, it's obviously they're colluding and they've all come to some kind of weird gentleman's agreement that, we're not going to allow him to play this year. However, the reason I think he'll be back next year is because, above all, winning is the number one thing that matters to all these NFL teams outside of making money. And winning helps you make more money. So, sure, they can make their little statement, they can have their little blackball party, but that's this season. Once the season is over, there's going to be a lot of angry fans because there is a lot of horrifyingly bad teams in the NFL this year. Not just weak tire fires, like brutal, like teams without hope, and teams with horrifyingly bad quarterbacking. So next year, the fans will demand that their teams improve, and the fans aren't going to care whether or not Kaepernick sits, stands, kneels, lays down, takes a nap during the anthem.
Sits in the outhouse with a cheeseburger.
It doesn't matter what he does. If some team comes out and says, some fans, if they're convinced that, with Kaepernick, we can win 10 games, make the playoffs, get him. I don't care what he does during the anthem, go nuts. So I think he'll be back. He hasn't, unlike other players like Ray Rice, who was caught, had a video of him showing physically, like punching his girlfriend out. No such thing has come out for Kaepernick. The only thing he did is he took a stance, a protest, which, ironically, most NFL owners done themselves this very season. So they're literally blackballing him for something they themselves have already done.
Oh yeah, I remember this is my epic suck one week. There,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. The hypocrisy is tremendous. So I think they'll get it out of their system next year, back in the NFL.
I hope you're right, but I just have my doubts if, I think there's supposed to be 3 or 4 quarterbacks going in the first round. That might be their out to try not sign them.
All right. And that is our fight of the night. As always, you can vote for who you think won this week's fight. Next, how about we look at some college football?
College ball!
As far as we're concerned, it's just getting interesting. That's why we're talking about it now.
Reading, writing, finger painting, man. Finger painting.
Get your basket weaving course out of the way. Grab your football. It's time to go back to college.
Time to play ball!
So, this week we had the latest rankings come out just this past Tuesday. And
they contradicted the betting odds for the national championship favorites.
Well, surprise, surprise. Apparently, the college football rankings have Alabama back in number 1 again.
And they are number 1. Mind you, they're a heavy popular team to bet on.
Mm-hmm.
I believe if you were to bet $10, you'd win $21. Or if you, say keep it easier. If you bet $1, you'd win $2.10 if you took them to win the national championship.
Mm-hmm. So, Alabama being back in number 1, does this surprise you?
No, because they've been so dominant over the years. I think it's hard to overcome that reputation.
Yeah, and they've also gotten off to a 10-0 start. So they have an unblemished record. So given their current,
they haven't faced much for opposition this year, but with their reputation, they can get away with that.
That's the thing. They have a perfect record, and they have their reputation. So, boom, number 1. Number 2, big jump, Clemson.
Yeah, and number 2 is a tie here in the odds. Clemson and Oklahoma are both paying $6 on a $1 bet.
Okay.
There it's Clemson and we'll get to number 3 soon. So They kind of agree with Clemson here with the odds makers.
Okay. Yeah, so they made a big jump from the 4th spot to 2nd now. An even bigger jump is in 3rd place, Miami.
And here, Oklahoma tied for 2nd, and at 6-1. Miami's down at 5th here. Miami is my pick to win the national championship.
Damn. Look at you go.
Yeah,
the convicts are back.
The convicts are back! With a much cleaner reputation. I love this defense. Man, love this defense. They played a Notre Dame team this past week where it's thought that all, if not most, if not all those offensive linemen will eventually play in the NFL. And that defense just used their speed and whooped them at the line of scrimmage. Just dominated them. 4 consecutive games, the Hurricanes have caused 4 turnovers or more. 2 straight weeks against ranked teams. 2 straight weeks against ranked teams known for taking care of the ball. And just obviously took the ball like they owned it. And what I love is they have the turnover chain, this big, huge chain. So whichever defender causes the turnover, they come back, they get the chain. It's awesome. You got to see it to actually
love
do
it.
justice.
Love it.
The turnover chain.
That's an excellent when teams do that, because I know other teams have done similar type rewards for exceptional play that they give out to their players. So I know in other teams they've given out hard hats. There's been the construction hat.
Yes,
that the team gets at the end, or the hardest working guy on the team gets at the end of each game. I know one season for the Carolina Hurricanes when they had an epic playoff run going all the way to the Stanley Cup final. The player of the game would wear a Carolina Hurricane team robe. So when you have the reporters in the dressing room at the end of the game, they go straight to the guy wearing the Hurricanes robe, nice, beautiful white robe, the Hurricane logo. That was the hardest working player of the game. He got the robe. So here we have the chain gang. Love it.
Oh, it's awesome.
All right, so
it's great because you don't rub it into the opponent because you're in such a hurry to get back to your teammates and get the chain.
Exactly. That's beautiful. So that's good. So basically they got the team, they got the chemistry, and they got the 9-0 record so far to prove that they belong.
Yes.
So national champion prediction.
National championship prediction.
Love
For
it.
You.
Love it. Currently number 3, but big rise from 7th ranking to the 3rd. Ranked number 4, Oklahoma.
And number 4 here is Auburn at 7-1.
Okay. Number 5, we have Wisconsin. They made a nice jump as well from 8th position to 5th. And also with a 10-0 record.
They have a big game this weekend, though, because they haven't really played anybody proven.
Mm-hmm.
They played Iowa at home this week, who knocked off Ohio State 2 weeks ago. But Iowa at home and Iowa on the road are like 2 different teams. And Iowa probably coming off a letdown after a huge win over Ohio State the week before. That was probably, their big upset game of the year.
Yeah.
There's some people who are claiming even though Wisconsin's 10-0, they don't know if they should be here because of their lack of opposition. This week, it might cost me because Michigan hasn't been that good. But they go into Wisconsin on Saturday, and I'm dedicating this pick to Big Papa Pump. He's my hookup. Because I'm going to take Michigan on the money line.
I'm hollering.
To win in Wisconsin.
Love it. The 24th rank.
It's going to be Big Papa Pump flexing. It's going to be the body flexing in his one pot gut. It's going to be Jim Harbaugh roaming down the sidelines in his khakis. Michigan!
Holla if you hear me. So 24th ranked Michigan is going to go all the way into 5th ranked Wisconsin and lay the smackdown.
That's what I think. Well, if you call like 16-13 a smackdown, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, but I'm going to take a shot at Michigan.
Frankensteiner, concussion, 1-2-3 pin.
Yeah. Steiner recliner!
All right, beautiful. See, friends, when you mix wrestling and any sport, it just gets that much better.
It does.
Even Michigan themselves, even though they're way down in the bottom, they did manage to crack the top 25 rankings. So they literally came out of basically mystery ranking up to 25th. So obviously even the odds makers or even the college football, writers think that there's something going on to Michigan. Mm-hmm. They're on the team on the rise, so there you go. Number 6, look at a couple more teams here. Number 6, actually, Auburn. That was another team that made a huge jump from 10th up to 6th now with an 8-2 record, and probably based on their latest big victory this past weekend. Dominated
Georgia. They have a lot of talent. They had a couple games earlier this year where maybe just coaching or calls didn't go their way. But they dominated Georgia. And they're a 2-loss team, but they are a 2-loss team that could get to the national championship because they still have Alabama left on the schedule. So if they could beat Alabama, and they would have beaten Alabama and Georgia, and then that might even mean a rematch with Georgia in the SEC championship.
Nice.
So if they could do all that, they could be an unlikely 2-win team in the college playoff.
The writers, football writers agree, basically having them ranked this highly, even with, 2 losses. But obviously the strength of the schedule is warranting them to be a top 10 team.
Yes.
You mentioned Georgia. Here's a team that, unlike all the rest on our list, everybody else actually above them rose in the standings. They took a big tumble, all the way from number 1 to number 7. Not a surprise based on their loss to Auburn?
No, not really. Just because I think the Miami win, Alabama keeps on winning. That's the thing. Georgia, I think Georgia's only really big win had been against Notre Dame this year on the road, which is a pretty big win. But I'm not sure how they do this, but I'm thinking of the double whammy. A, you lose at Auburn. B, the one team you had a big win against got their asses handed to them, which probably didn't help their cause either when Notre Dame lost the way they did, 41-8.
Right. So Georgia, you think they can rebound from this?
It's possible. They have to keep winning because sometimes you have that big loss and you have the letdown. They have to keep winning. And then not just keep winning, they have to win the SEC championship.
So,
and that's probably going to be against either Auburn or Alabama.
So there's the thing with 2 games remaining. So Georgia has they're facing Kentucky next. Barf, and
should win.
And then they go to Georgia Tech. So even if they win both games, is that still going to be enough to get them to national championship contention?
Well, the big one will be because the way it works, they're in the Southeastern Conference, the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
So then there'd be the SEC championship game after that. And that's either a rematch with Auburn or it's Alabama. So beating one of those teams could get them back in there.
Okay.
Now they get to that game and lose. Or the other one is they should beat Georgia Tech, but Georgia Tech's kind of tricky because they run what they call a triple option offense.
All right.
And it gives teams trouble sometimes. So I still see them beating that team, but unless that game knocks them off the rails, which I doubt, but isn't impossible, it's going to hinge on the SEC championship game for them.
Number 1 to number 7 and possibly number 0.
Yeah.
So that is our college football roundup for this week. Stay tuned for next week. We'll have another one.
You ever notice, I just wanted to mention, since we've come up with like a week late and $1 short, we stopped making monumental errors.
How about that? I guess that's transparency. It works.
Transparency, just like it does in governments.
Let me get the bucket here.
Oh, man.
Speaking of needing buckets, how about we talk about World Cup qualifying?
Oh, man, there's some nations needing buckets.
There is an entire boot-shaped nation that needs a big bucket.
Getting ready to give some people the boots.
Oh my Lord, there's probably people who've kicked the bucket even over the result this past week. For those of you that have missed it, as unbelievable as it sounds, Italy will not be in next year's World Cup.
First time since 1958.
The World Cup of Soccer, the biggest sporting tournament in our planet, and one of the greatest, most successful countries of all time, and they will not be there 60 years later?
Mm-hmm.
In 6 decades, they have never failed to make a single World Cup. They've won 4 of them, by the way, on the way here, and they've been in probably another 4 finals as well. Like, Italy, without question, next to Brazil, and you could make a case for Germany, is like the most definitely like top 3 most successful nations in the history of world soccer, and they could not beat out Sweden. And Sweden, you know, we love you, Sweden. You're a nice place. You make interesting movies, and but realistically, Sweden should not have been able to beat out Italy in this playoff match.
I just have a good perspective. This would be like the Patriots with Belichick and Brady not making the playoffs. Yeah, exactly. It's like not just making the playoffs, not making the playoffs. That combination of those 2 guys for 4 straight years. I'll let that sink into your head. Imagine the Patriots not making the playoffs for 4 straight seasons with their current lineup. Mm-hmm. This is what just happened. So, and not only is it like, forget the shock of it all, even during the game, there was even some dissension in the ranks there as Italy's coach at one point decided, okay, I'm going to make some substitutions. Good idea. You're not winning. You need a win. You need a goal because the game ended up 0-0 tie. You need a goal. So, okay, let's go to the bench. And I'm going to pull out a defensive midfielder. What? I need a goal. Let's defend. What?
Yes, friends. For a team that had how much possession time?
75% to 25%.
So 75% possession, which is unheard of in the game of soccer. That's like adults playing against children type percentages here. And yet, the coach decides, oh no, I need to control the ball. I need to generate turnovers.
Because it's been working out this well so far.
What turnovers are there to generate? You have the ball all the time.
What's he supposed to go take it off his own teammate?
Maybe that was the idea. Maybe some of his own players weren't.
I've had it with watching you.
We need to get more involved in this game.
We need to get aggressive, even if it's against ourselves.
Against ourselves. So yeah, the coach decided that he wanted to bring in Andrea Bellotti, and Bellotti himself on the bench was stupefied that the coach.
Stupefied, I haven't used that in a while. I love that word.
That the coach picked him, and he started arguing with the assistant coach that came over to tell him that he was coming in, and he argued with the assistant saying, "Why am I going in? We don't need to defend. We need to score." It's like Inzaghi is the one who should be going in, not me. So, of course, Lorenzo Insigne, being the man of the hour that he's pointing to, and not just Bellotti, every other player on the Italian bench, they were all like, why isn't Insigne going in? He's the goal scorer. He's the one who should be going in to help us win. So basically the entire thing was...
it's bad when the guy coming in is like, no, this is the wrong move.
Which is amazing, because how often do you hear in sports where a player says, no, coach, don't put me in?
Mm-hmm.
Never.
And the thing is, he had a legitimate point. He wasn't some guy just shying away either.
No. Obviously, if this was a case where, Italy had like a 2-0 lead, and they basically just needed to maintain that scoreline, yeah, he would have ran onto the field even in his street clothes. It would have been no issue. But even he knew better that this is a bad idea. It's like, I am not a goal scorer. In the end, yeah, he was right. Italy did not score. 0-0 tie. Sweden won 1-0 in the first leg. Sweden goes through. Italy does not.
Amazing.
Incredible. So it'll be interesting to see where the Italian national team goes from here. Do they just quickly rebound and recover, or is this actually a concern going into the next major tournament that they'll be qualifying for, which will be the 2020 Euro competition? Outside of Italy, there were some other notable teams that failed to qualify for the World Cup this year. One was the Netherlands.
That's a surprise.
They former European champions and finalists in the World Cup, actually back in 2010 against Germany. They failed to qualify, finished third in their group, so they're out. Chile, defending Copa America champions, which is the South American version of the Euro. They're not going through. Our friends to the United States.
They're not in. They lost a highly unlikely game they shouldn't have lost either.
Yeah, they were facing two countries, Trinidad and Tobago. So it's like wrestling. It's like a handicap match.
Yeah, but this is kind of like supposed to... Well, I wouldn't say the States is Braun Strowman in soccer. That'd be a bad analogy. But it'd be like having a decent mid-carder against like two James Ellsworths. Like, you should still win.
Yeah, you should still win. Yeah.
Yet Iceland will be in, aren't they?
They will be in. That is one of the notable inclusions, actually. Iceland.
They served me well in the Euro.
It is absolutely incredible. A country of 300,000 people who've never made it to a single major tournament in their entire history. Suddenly they qualified for Euro in 2016, and now they've qualified for Russia 2018.
Well, I think they served both of us well in the Euro in our pools.
They did indeed. They did quite well. Yes. And although they had a silly tie against Portugal in Game 1 of the Euro, all was forgiven, because in the end the right team won. Giant grin on my face.
Yes.
But outside of our friends from Iceland, other notable ins this year also is Egypt. We have not seen the World Cup in many moons.
Wow.
Morocco, I think it's like 30 years since they've been in the World Cup. I think the 86 World Cup's the last time they were in.
So the return of the magnificent Morocco.
The return of the magnificent Morocco. Boom. And also Tunisia. they're also making a return to the World Cup. It's only like second time I can ever recall them ever even being in the World Cup. And of course, we can't forget another notable team missing from the World Cup is, shocking of shocks, Canada is not going to be in the World Cup.
When's the last time you were in? 86?
That was the last time and the only time. Yep, 1986.
Still waiting to score their first World Cup goal.
Yes, they are. 0 wins, 0 goals. Go Canada. One day we can only dream.
Yeah.
So all of the madness begins next year in June. Tournament will run from mid-June to mid-July, and actually we'll know the groups starting December the 1st.
And it'll be in Russia this year, right?
It'll be in Russia. So yeah, in 2 weeks' time, they'll actually be picking out the groups. So we'll know who's facing off against who.
And then in 4 years, it's in Qatar, right?
Yeah. And 4 years after, Qatar.
Oh, fantastic. So people go check out World Cup soccer and just wind up becoming slave labor once their passports get stolen.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that will be a discussion.
Oh, it definitely will.
That'll be a future discussion.
That might even be a future skit.
Oh, yeah. So that is...
one of the few times we're actually showing forward vision on this show, and it's pretty extreme when we're thinking that far down the line.
The Body and Mind show is always looking ahead. It's 5 years down the road. So that is our look at the World Cup qualifying matches. Next, how about we look at the CFL Playoffs, continuing our football-themed show today. And we've done 2 games in round 1, and now we're going to both the Western Final and the Eastern Final. So to recap the East and West semifinals, we had Winnipeg Blue Bombers at home to Edmonton Eskimos, and Edmonton came into Winnipeg and defeated the Bombers 39-32. This was simply a case of Winnipeg defense, which has been the weak part of this team all season. They've had a tremendous offense, one of the best in the CFL actually this year, Winnipeg, but unfortunately they're saddled with also having basically the worst defense in the entire league as far as giving up points, giving up yardage, averaging nearly 400 yards a game, yards given up. The only saving grace the defense had was that they are a turnover machine. They do cause a lot of turnovers, but unfortunately in this game against Edmonton, they caused 0 turnovers, and they once again gave up over 400 yards in offense, and Edmonton rolled over them. This 39-32 scoreline actually is incredibly flattering because in the fourth quarter, Edmonton just went purely into a prevent defense and just let the clock run out.
Yeah, I don't know what... it seems like the Bombers' greatest nemesis now is the playoffs. Now they have to get over the hump of winning a playoff game.
Pretty much.
It took them years to get back. Now they're getting back, but they can't win a playoff game.
27 years without a championship and counting.
In a league that's had 8 or 9 teams.
This
is moving up with when the Rangers went 40 years without a Stanley Cup. Because that was 40 years, but a good chunk of that time would be 17, 21, or 30 teams.
And at this level, 27 years without a championship in an 8.5 team league. Because sometimes they've had 8, sometimes they'd have 9, depending on whether or not Ottawa and Montreal are in the league.
Yeah, that's just beyond pathetic.
So yeah, when you take it on that score, this is almost Cubbies like incompetence of 106 years like without a championship.
Yeah. It's not really far off in a sense.
You factor in the number of teams involved in baseball, number in the CFL.
The number in the CFL and the number of the CFL that get in the playoffs. Because in baseball, even historically, at first only the league champions got to the World Series, then it was division, then it was wild card, and even then you have so many teams in baseball that it was still a minority. Here you're talking, like you said, 8.5 team league, 8 or 9 depending on the year, and 6 are in the playoffs every year. And 27 years without a championship.
Yeah.
So really, even though by years, if you break it down that way, it's not much of a reach to compare it with Cubs futility.
Yep. So the futility continues for Winnipeg. Edmonton, they were good on all sides. They're moving on. The other game we had was Saskatchewan going into Ottawa. Saskatchewan trying to be the first team from the Western Division to go through the East and make it to the Grey Cup. And so far, so good.
They're a game away from living the dream.
Step number 1 is accomplished. Saskatchewan 31-20 over Ottawa. And Saskatchewan basically did it by running. 3 rushing touchdowns. And a late addition, or a late starter, Marcus Thigpen became the starting running back for Saskatchewan because their regular first 2 running backs, Trent Richardson and Cameron Marshall, were both out this week. So Thigpen got the nod, and all he did was rush for 169 yards.
Is this like NFL Trent Richardson?
Yes, indeed.
How's he actually been playing? I've watched the CFL and Spurts this year, but I haven't really seen much of Saskatchewan. How's he looked up here?
He's done well, but he is still the backup. Cameron Marshall is the number 1 guy still here in Saskatchewan. So wow. He's fighting. He's fighting to get back.
He's grinding. Every day he's grinding.
Every day's a grind.
He's getting better and he's grinding.
Getting better every day. Getting stronger every day. So from the Ottawa side, it wasn't that their loss wasn't that they didn't generate offense, because starting quarterback Trevor Harris, he did do 60 pass attempts, which is a brand new CFL record. And to go with 60 pass attempts, he also got over 300 yards of passing, well over 300. So it wasn't for lack of trying anyway, lack of offense generated by Ottawa. But Saskatchewan just basically controlled the game, controlled the clock, and a couple of timely turnovers by the Saskatchewan defense, and turned this into a bit of a rout, despite an unbelievable, actually, game from Trevor Harris, quarterback of Ottawa.
I think the Saskatchewan-Toronto game is going to be really interesting. It's going to be really good.
Yeah, so that is what we have in the Eastern Final now, Saskatchewan at Toronto. This is a very intriguing matchup because it's going to be basically run versus run. Obviously, with Saskatchewan, they have a plethora of running backs to choose from. As we mentioned, Trent Richardson, Cameron Marshall, Thigpen just broke out, decided to get himself 169 yards rushing. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, on the other side, in Toronto, we have good old James Wilder III.
What is with Mark Trestman? Like really, this guy refused to run the ball when he went down back to the NFL to be a coordinator and head coach, and now he comes back up to Canada and decides he's going to run the ball again.
He has.
If he wouldn't have abandoned the run like this when he's down there, he might still be down there.
That is true, and even more surprising given that the NFL has excellent running backs, practically every team, and is a league that really is very supportive of the running game. Given that you got 4 downs, an extra down to basically get your running game going.
He would abandon it at times down there. It was amazing.
Yeah, sometimes you got to wonder.
When he had like 3 downs, well, 4 if you include the punting down. He has 2, 3 if you include the punting down here, and he'll run the ball.
Well, and in Toronto, he's got a magnificent runner in James Wilder, 872 yards, and he wasn't even the starter for really half the season. So this is really a little more than half a season's worth of stats here. So really, he's got a 1,000-yard rusher going for him. And on the other side, yeah, Saskatchewan has 3 guys it looks like they can count on. Marshall, Richardson, and Thigpen. 2
of the best CFL coaches in the last few years, too, when you put up Jones against Trestman.
Indeed. Jones coming off winning the Grey Cup with Edmonton, and now he's come over to Saskatchewan to basically rebuild that franchise and try and do the same thing. Yeah, it looks like in year 3, he's starting to his plan is starting to take effect.
And Trestman rebuilding Toronto after
Yep, turned Montreal into a powerhouse, winning multiple Grey Cups, and practically everyone on that roster is going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Toronto, on paper, it would seem they have everything they need to win this game. Because Ricky Ray, another huge season, 5,500 yards passing.
Yeah, I definitely like him more than like Saskatchewan's quarterbacks.
Yeah, Kevin Glenn. Yeah, Kevin Glenn, the starter, and Brandon Bridge, the Canadian, as his backup.
Like, don't underestimate a Chris Jones run defense in Saskatchewan.
No, there's the thing. I mean, he's shown that he's willing to throw in bizarro world when he needs to, like, I don't know, putting Deron Carter, their receiver, as a
corner,
as starting corner. So you never know what you're going to get from Chris Jones.
No, you don't know if he's going to throw exotic blitzes or drop like 8 or 9 in the coverage.
Yeah. So that's the Saskatchewan-Toronto. This is definitely an even matchup, and right now it's looking like a coin flip. Who's going to win this? I still think it'll be Toronto winning and going to the Grey Cup, but it would not be a shock to see Saskatchewan pull this out.
No, this one go either way.
Another big matchup, once again, the Battle of Alberta. Edmonton is at Calgary.
I flat out like Edmonton. 5-point underdog. I like them. They're rolling. Calgary isn't. Calgary rested their quarterback in the last regular game of the season before a bye.
They did.
We used to see how that worked out with the Colts and the Peyton Manning years quite often. Not very.
Yeah.
Does your team really need 2 weeks off? And when your team's already on a losing streak, do you really need 2 weeks off?
Yeah. Yeah, so this is literally, so for Bolioy Mitchell, Calgary's starting quarterback, this would be the first time in 3 weeks that he's played a game.
And then he was losing before that, and now the hottest team in the league rolls in.
Yeah, they had
as a 5-point underdog.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I'll take Edmonton.
Yeah, Saskatchewan or Edmonton coming into this game with a 6-game winning streak. Calgary coming in with a 3-game losing streak.
I mean, Calgary can win this game. Never say never. They're really talented, but I mean, just from my perspective, how'd you not take Edmonton if you're going to wager on this?
And the numbers don't lie. Like the one advantage that Calgary definitely have is in the running game, where on Edmonton, literally the team leader in rushing is the quarterback, Mike Riley, with 390 yards. That's their leading rusher. Other than that, Edmonton has not had an actual consistent running back.
No, it's all about airing it out.
Years, it's airing it out, and any running is done by committee. Meanwhile, on the other side, Calgary, they have a beast in Jerome Messam, who's a 1,000-yard rusher. Only 2 of them in the CFL this year. Winnipeg's Andrew Harris, and in this case, Calgary's Jerome Messam. And Messam is just a large human being. Mm-hmm. He is like 6'3" and 240 pounds. So yeah, he's just a beast out there. Yeah, so big advantage there with the running game for Calgary. On the other 2 fronts, both receiving and quarterbacking, Edmonton's got the advantage there. So yeah, Battle of Alberta, you say Edmonton.
I do.
And yeah, I can't find any reason to disagree.
We're in agreement there. Hopefully that's a good thing.
So potentially we have Edmonton-Toronto, Grey Cup. Ricky Ray going up against his old team.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
Intriguing matchup. And that is our review of the CFL Playoffs this week. And lastly, we come to our Epic and Suck of the Week. The moment we thought was epic over the last week, the moment we thought sucked. Buddy, take it away.
Last week, Brian Boyle, center with the New Jersey Devils, scored his first goal since being diagnosed with cancer last spring, I think it was in the summer. Yeah, he was diagnosed with cancer and he scored his first goal since being diagnosed. That's huge. I think that's just huge coming back from that disease anyways. Mm-hmm. And then especially when you consider it's November, we kind of recognize that. My father passed away from cancer. You had someone very close to you. Was it your uncle passed away from cancer?
Mm-hmm.
So, something like that actually strikes a huge chord with me. So for me, that's my epic light. It's not the football theme, but Brian Boyle scoring his first goal since being diagnosed with cancer.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Fantastic. Your suck of the week.
Well, originally it was going to be the Giants getting beat down by Beat Hard and eliminating an 0-16 bet. But no, I'm going to go with the NFL and college schedules this week. Are just an epic suck. Just garbage. Trash. Who made these schedules? It's just horrifying, disgusting, ridiculous, appalling. Just pathetic.
It almost looks like they were made by someone who is trying to kill TV football.
That's a great description. Someone who just needed a week with the family and I just need to put a bunch of games in I could afford to miss while I spend some time. Or, I need to catch up on some binge Netflix watching or something. This might be a good weekend for it.
Very true. Because, both leagues, I think we found maybe like one matchup that was intriguing in both leagues.
Yeah, I still got Narcos to catch up on. I have some recorded stuff in my PVR. I still haven't watched the new Joker as well. The Snoop Dogg I recorded last week. I got some stuff to catch up on. I think that'll be Saturday.
All right.
That should even be my epic but I haven't watched it yet. It's not sports related. The old 70s, 80s game show, The Joker's Wild Back with Snoop Dogg.
Nice.
Oh, this sounds like potential. I think they even have 420 up there. I've seen that in that. 420. Why should I not be surprised?
So NFL college schedule, the suck.
Yeah, the college and the NFL schedule.
For myself, my epic of the week goes to the Las Vegas Golden Knights, but specifically their goalies. This is a team that refuses to lose no matter how many goalies get injured. So currently we are down to goalie number 5 playing for them. Yes, gang, number 1 goalie was Marc-Andre Fleury. He was supposed to be the face of the franchise. The man was going to lead them into having a not-so-terrible season. Well, instead of having a not-so-terrible season, they're actually having a winning season. They're still over 500. They're still winning games, despite the fact that Marc-Andre got injured within the first couple of weeks of the NHL season. So once Marc-Andre Fleury go down, they saw that former Boston goalie Malcolm Subban was on the waiver wire, brother of PK. So they grabbed him, and they figured this would be a good guy to put in net. And he was. Kind of having a minor career resurrection in Las Vegas, doing well, winning some games, and then Malcolm himself got injured. Fine, we have another goalie. His name is...
Wait, there's more.
There's more. He's called Oscar Dankst. Who? I don't know either.
I don't even know if he knows.
No one's ever heard of Oscar Dankst, but people were starting to know his name after a couple of weeks of stellar goaltending out of someone who was playing in the AHL. But wait.
There's more?
There's more.
What?
As with Spinal Tap drummers,
oh, by the wayside.
Golden Knight goalies do not last more than a couple of gigs because Danst himself got injured. So now we're down 3 goalies. So let's step up goalie number 4. Hey, how about Maxime Legacy? Yes, son of former NHL goalie Manny Legacy. So here comes Maxime. Now he's in there, doing well. Oh, but the other day he's getting stomped by the Oilers. Time to take Legacy out. How about we go with goalie number 5 by way of Dylan Ferguson.
Who?
So you ask, who is Dylan Ferguson? Well, just a week ago, he was sitting at a Boston Pizza watching the Las Vegas Golden Knights while he was playing in the ECHL or the Continental Hockey League or wherever he was playing in this world, sitting at a Boston Pizza ordering a plate of all meat wings when he saw starting goaltender for the Golden Knights, Oscar Dankst, going down with an injury. At that point, Ferguson figured, you know what, I might get the call up. So he canceled his order of wings, paid his bill. Sure enough, he got the call. Hour later, he's on a flight up to Las Vegas to back up Maxime Legacy, and he got into the game against the Oilers, where this time the Vegas actually suffered an A2 beatdown.
Amazing. So what you're saying is by next week we could be doing the show from Vegas because we might be called next.
We might be.
Wow.
Basically,
that'll be awesome.
Any current, former goalies out there, keeps your skates sharp, because the Vegas Knights, they might be calling upon you.
Keep your skates sharp and your phone on.
And your phone, absolutely. Make sure that thing is charged. Better yet, get a landline. Then you don't have to worry about that.
And don't go anywhere.
Nope.
Just wait by the phone.
Just wait by the phone, because you might get the call. So far, Vegas, they played 17 games. They got 10 wins, 6 losses. They're sitting in 5th place overall in the Western Conference. So it doesn't matter. Goalie number 5, bring it on. Bring on goalie number 6. Vegas just keeps winning no matter how many goalies they use. Vegas and your goalies, you are my epic of the week. For my suck, we travel way further north and to a place far, far colder, and that would be the thriving metropolis of Buffalo. And their local football team, to continue with our football theme today, the Buffalo Bills. They are my suck of the week. And why are they my suck of the week? Because this is a team that continually blames their offense for the defensive woes. As we mentioned it earlier before, when the Ryan brothers were mismanaging the Bills, Rob Ryan, his defense was giving up 40-some points a game, and this was every game, game after game, consistently. So, of course, the only solution is to fire the offensive coordinator.
Well, of course.
What? Insert record scratch here.
Pretty much.
So, of course, defense is doing terrible. Yeah, fire the offensive coordinator. That makes sense. And so, based on decisions like that, this season, at the beginning of the season, the Bills decided, you know what? We've had plenty of struggles on offense year after year. Should we get Tyrod Taylor some help? No, let's trade away his number 1 receiver, Sammy Watkins. That sounds like a good idea. Let's do that. Let's send him over to LA, and let's get another defender. All right, hooray. We're going to have strong defense. We'll crush people with our amazing defense. Fine, we don't need receivers. And for a while it was working. They were winning. Defense was helping until it wasn't. And all of a sudden, Buffalo realizes, maybe we do need a receiver. Okay, how about we make a trade for Benjamin?
And can I add, the 2 receivers they got rid of are the guys who are working out with the Rams' high-octane offense.
Yeah, it seems to be working out well for them.
Yeah.
So then they decided, you know what, maybe we do need a receiver, so let's make a trade with Carolina and get Benjamin over here. So now they've traded away to get a receiver and to help Tyrod. So how do they reward Tyrod? By benching him. Yes, sirree. Buffalo Bills, I swear, their entire management of this team is being done by a magic 8-ball. Magic 8-ball. Should I bench my quarterback this week? Roll. Yes. Fine.
Are you sure it's not the Italian soccer manager incognito?
That did not occur to me, but under that hood, it could be anyone.
If you need offense, we'll bring you defense. If you need defense, we'll bring you offense.
The Italian manager strikes again. So
whatever you don't need, that's what we're going with.
That's what we're getting.
Whatever needs help, we won't bother with it.
So Buffalo Bills, once again, your complete and utter incompetent mismanagement of a potential playoff team, and turning them into
they are easily the longest reigning team not in the playoffs right now.
They are. Buffalo Bills, you are my suck of the week. And with that is another edition of the Body and Mind Show. Body, thanks again for a great show.
Oh, it's been a pleasure again.
And thank you all for listening. Please remember to like and subscribe to our channel. here on YouTube. Thanks again for listening to the Body and Mind Sports Show.